way that I could, because like with Twitch, I can kind of have preset settings that will apply to Twitch and to stream. But with YouTube, I can't have preset settings that apply to YouTube stream. Technically, like I can't have it so that every time I start a stream, I can have these. And I feel like my theory is that they're trying to make it so that you have to use their like internal system to schedule your streams and shit like that. I don't know, but like I can't have it so that every time I start a stream, it will start with these specific settings. I can kind of do it through Streamlabs, but there's other settings that I like to set that I can't do through Streamlabs. So I basically have to do it at the start of every stream. And I wish they would fix that. Like right now, the only thing they have is like, oh, you can schedule a stream and have it set to reuse settings. But then when I go to start the stream, I have to use that specific stream code to technically start that stream rather than just click the go live button, which is annoying. So that's a bit of a frustration. Hey, what's up, Melon? Okay, let me get logged in, make sure it's not going to crash on me, because it does it sometimes. If it has something saved weird. But no, it's just like a random annoyance that I wish YouTube would fix, would make it so that, like, I can have it set so that because I can have it set so every video I posts with specific settings. But as far as I know, there's no way for me to have it set so that every stream I starts with specific settings without me having to do the reuse this schedule stream with these settings kind of thing. So it's just a little bit of extra startup every single time, but it's not bad. It's just, it's something I have to remember to do, because if I don't remember to do, then all of a sudden the problems that get solved by having the settings don't get solved. But yeah, no, like I was saying earlier, like, okay, so weird comment on the most recent video I posted. One of the comments was just, "Who's the twink the himbo is talking to?" And I was like, "What?" He's like, "Don't what me, daddy. I want that twink you're talking to." I was like, "That was you. You were the person I was talking to." And I don't know how they got this idea that you're a twink based off of your voice, because you don't sound like that, and if they saw you, you definitely don't look like that. So I think you need to figure out what it is about your vibe that gives off twink vibes.
I don't fucking know.
Yeah,
I'm a 6 foot tall, 240-pound black man. I do not know what is.
If anything, you're a bear. Like that's, I don't know. You're 100%. A bear. I don't know how they got twink out of anything. I mean, you got a deep voice. You got a deeper voice than I do. So I don't know how I was the himbo and you were the twink. Fuck. I mean, I get how I'm a himbo. I 100% how I get the himbo. But I don't get how they got, oh, he's a himbo, but that dude with the deeper voice, definitely a twink.
I don't know either.
I'm very confused.
Every twink that I've seen, they are the most feminine man possible. It's like, okay.
Yeah. I don't get it. But anyways, yeah, I just wanted to start with that.
Yeah, starting with the stream weird.
There's no other way. Hold on, let me up something up real quick. Bam. Bam. I don't know if I'm going to do a quest in Fallout today, or if I'm just going to do some resource gathering so I can start building shit out. I think I'm definitely going to build out my little castle here, because I always like to build out the castle in a specific way. Or I might just... I didn't mod in a lot of the extra... Yeah, I didn't do that. I didn't mod in a lot of the extra things I like. Because I like adding a bunch of settlements. Taking those settlements, putting provisioner routes between them with really geared out settlers. And just having it so like there's... I constantly have patrols running through all the Commonwealth. Yeah, it has been a bit, Melon. What's you been up to? I don't know if I feel like doing a quest today. Today might just be a resource gathering and building settlement. I do need to go ahead and send a provisioner to this one, though. I will take your prime sub. You'll be my prime sub, Paul.
So the idea of a prime sub implies the idea of a prime top or dom.
That's me.
So, no, you just said you would take his prime sub. That
As
means
as
that
in he is my prime sub, which makes me the prime top. Yeah. It's not really a position so much as it is a title, if that makes sense. Like, multiple people can hold a title, but only one person can hold a position.
Congratulations. You now know how the military feels.
Yeah. It's like,
Make sure
what would be a good... So, like, the
the
position is first sergeant. Or I guess it's more of a rank. It's more of a rank, but not a position.
It's a rank, not a billet.
Yeah. Because, like, first sergeant is not a rank. It is a position that you hold.
Not in the Marine Corps, it's also a rank.
Sure.
Is first sergeant categorically a rank or a position?
I'm being sarcastic. Leave me alone.
It's a billet that
literally-
you're filling.
It's
And
kind
it
of
gives you positional authority over equal
in
rank sergeants that are not the first sergeant. But it's not, there's no pay grade associated with it, and it does not, like, if you went to a different command where you are not their first sergeant, you don't have authority over them as a first sergeant. You are the first sergeant there, but not there. Whereas, like, if you had an E7 and an E8, and that E8 went to a different command, he still has authority over all those other E7s. He still has rank over them.
in the Marine Corps, first sergeant is its own rank.
Okay. I did not know that. I did not know that first sergeant was its own rank in the Marine Corps.
Yeah, because the way for first sergeant, the way it does is it goes private, lance corporal, corporal, sergeant, staff sergeant, gunnery sergeant.
Oh,
Then
yeah, okay, yeah, I'm seeing that. That is it, as it's kind of like the fact that the Army has corporal and specialists that are the same pay grade, but a different rank.
it's after gunnery sergeant, that's where it splits. You have where one goes more of the administrative side, the other goes more the logistics side.
Okay.
That's where you have master gunnery sergeant, and then you have first sergeant.
Whereas I believe in the Army, first sergeant is just a position. I might be wrong on that.
I am also trying to remember because it's been a long.
Yeah, it is a
time.
temporary rank in the E8 pay grade and is considered the highest rank in a company-sized unit. So it is a temporary rank, but it is not a separate rank. It's not like the way you're describing first sergeant for the Marines being a actual separate rank. Because it's similar to how the Army, you can become an E4, but you become a corporal or a specialist, and you are always a corporal or a specialist unless you get laterally promoted.
Yay, special.
But you kind of hold that. Like, if you become a corporal, when you go to another command, you will still be a corporal. Whereas in the Army, as far as I understand it, if you become a first sergeant, when you go to another command, if you don't get a first sergeant billet, you will not be a first sergeant.
Damn.
That's how I understand it. Well, I mean, it's the billet thing. It's the same thing as you can have a chief in the Navy, or you can be an LCPO. And the LCPO is just the leading chief petty officer that's in charge of a team. You can be a master chief in the Navy, or you can be the senior enlisted leader of that command. Or senior enlisted advisor. I can't remember. Hold on. Yeah, okay. Because I think my first command, we technically had a senior enlisted advisor, not a senior enlisted leader, and it's really just kind of nuance. I could not for the life of me remember the difference, and what it is effectively the senior enlisted leader has a more direct leadership role, and senior enlisted advisor just more so advises the commanding officer. Where like it was I think it was I think what it kind of was at my command. And my first command, because it was a joint command and the structure of it was weird to the point where we had, civilians within our direct chain of command. I want to say what it was our Master Chief was the senior enlisted leader for the Navy, but he was a senior enlisted advisor at the command because in his capacity as the Navy senior enlisted leader, he acted as the senior enlisted advisor for the Navy to the greater command structure where he answered to General Kelly. I think. I'm not that was my first command. And honestly, it was such a confusing thing to throw someone to as their first command, to go to a joint command, and also go to a joint command that acts differently than other joint commands, because my team was structured, like my first team was structured, where I had my Navy LPO. I didn't technically have an LCPO for that team, because that team was subordinate to a different team. So instead, I had I think at the time, I can't remember if we had the Air Force Master Sergeant or the Army Sergeant First Class in charge of the team at that time. But we also had a civilian that was in charge of the team that was kind of parallel in theoretical authority to the Sergeant First Class and or Air Force Master Sergeant, because they were still superior to my LPO, who was an E6, but they didn't hold military authority over me technically, but at that command structure, the way that command was structured, they held authority over my work and my work product. So it was weirdly structured. And then because it was a joint command, I had I had to follow, in some ways, Army doctrine and Army way of doing things, because technically the command was an Army command, but a joint command. But also I had to follow the Navy way, and it was like when I routed a leave chit, I had to blue folder leave chit, and it was the routing slip was 2.5 pages long, because of all the different people that had hands on me to, kind of control what I was doing. And it was a great experience in the sense that as a young military person, you learn a lot about how the different branches work, and it works with that. And because of the way the command was structured and the amount of money the command had, we got sent to trainings and stuff all the time. So I learned a lot about how to do my job, and I learned about how the different branches did my job, so that I could kind of accumulate information and learn how to do it better. Because, to be honest, I didn't like the way that the Navy did it. The Navy didn't do it quite the same way that the other branches did.
Better keep your mouth shut about
but
this place. Can't trust anyone.
So learned a lot, but also when I went to my second command, which was just a Navy command, I had no fucking clue how the Navy did things. I had no idea what I was doing. It was a incredibly confusing experience, to the point when the Navy side, at that command at the very least, we didn't have to route a routing slip because it was a small Navy command. So it was literally, when I put in for leave, it was literally just put it into the electronic system that we used, and then let your LPO know that you did it, and everyone in that chain got an email. But since the command was small, everyone in that chain wasn't so inundated with emails that they had to worry about it. That they had to worry about, oh, we might not see the email, so I need an actual physical piece of paper. So when I first put in for leave at that command, I was like, okay, who all do I need to put on my routing shit? Who do I... Because I was expecting it to be complicated as shit, and they're like, you don't. It's what are you talking about? It's you don't have to just... We'll get an email, we'll get updated, we'll let you know when it's approved. You'll get an email when it's approved. It's this doesn't make any fucking sense to me. And I did not understand how the Navy did things, because I was used to the way that specific joint command did things. So it was a huge adjustment period for me. Yeah, it was really fucking weird.
Sounds like Navy butt fuckery to me.
No, it was Joint Command buttfuckery. I like to joke. It's like my first command was like the Office Space, you know, the movie where you ditched my stapler, you took my sleeper, because just that scene where he's talking to the consultants and stuff. He's like, I have 4 bosses, so anytime I fuck up, I have 4 people coming to me to tell me that I fucked up because I had 4 bosses. I had my LPO, I had my my fucking civilian that was in charge of me, and then I had a separate Navy chain of command that also had a chief that would come yell at me, and then I had like a command mentor, a Navy mentor that would also come yell at me depending on it. If I screwed up in my job, but I also had like the greater chain of command that I responded to at that command. So, like, if I screwed up at something in my job, at the very least, my LPO was going to come yell at me, the civilian was going to come yell at me, the team that we were supporting was going to come yell at me, because what my team and my division did was support the other teams at that command. The team that I was supporting was going to come yell at me, and then depending on what category of fuck up it was, my mentor and my LCPO were going to come yell at me, because my mentor and my LCPO were technically in separate chains of command. So it's insane. Okay, see you, Paul. Zach's beautiful voice yapping as background noise while I play Terraria. Hey, if I'm providing good background noise, I'm happy. I'm okay with that. Okay, what do I need to transfer over to here? I got a lot of eggs, I know that. No, it was God, that command definitely had some kinks it needed to work out. I have so much purified water. I'm going to go ahead and put that missile launcher away because I'm not going to need it. That was one of the things I was going to do today. I was going to rework the reward system. Got to do that. Okay. I don't need the baseball launcher. AK-74, that's 545. Do I have another one that's using 545? Because I might just keep that. I'm not going to be using the M60 too much. I'm not going to be using this. I don't have the grenades for that. You can have the shish kebab. Don't need that. Probably not going to use the Tesla cannon too much unless it's a specifically heavy battle. No, that command structure was insane. That was not the best. Especially because they didn't really explain stuff to me. I had my first mentor, which when I got to that command, one of the first things I had to do when I got to that command was pick a mentor. When I got to my first command, was pick a mentor who was on paper the person who was supposed to teach me about how to be in the Navy. They were the ones that was supposed to like walk me through, because at boot camp you learn basic stuff. You really learn how to be kind of a sailor, but not how to be in the Navy. So you learn like line handling, and you learn the basic structure in the ranks, but you don't really learn the nuance of how to be in the Navy. You don't learn how to write an eval. You don't learn how to like routed shit. You don't learn any of that. That's all expected to be taught to you on the job. You go to A school after boot camp, and that's where you learn how to do your job, and you might learn a little bit more about how to be in the Navy depending on how much effort the instructors put in to teach you those things. But you don't learn the nuance of how to be in the Navy until you get to your first job. And that's what your mentor's supposed to do. So I had to pick a mentor, like within my first week or two. So I just picked the dude that was the CFL because I knew I wanted to be a CFL. I wanted to be the PT guy, so I picked him. Didn't really know him that well. the time my first eval comes around, because normally like an E2, E3 is not going to be writing their own eval at all. Like your LPO is going to write it for you. Maybe the person right under your LPO is going to write it for you. And so that they can learn how to do it. But you're not going to be writing it. But because we were a rate that promoted kind of fast, our Master Chief said he wants everyone from bottom up to be writing their own eval, submitting it the next level higher, and that it was basically a training thing for everyone. Everyone was learning how to write an eval, and everyone was learning how to review an eval. Time my first eval came around, I had no idea how to do it. I didn't know what Navy evals were supposed to look like. I had been in my first command for like 6 months. So I go to my mentor and ask him, hey, petty officer, how do I write an eval? Like, I know I use this software and I know like this basic stuff, but I don't know, like, what am I supposed to put here? What am I supposed to write? He's like, how do you not know how to write your own eval? I was like, I don't know. I'm not sure how I'm supposed to do this. Like, don't you think you should figure that out? I'm like, well, I figured I'd ask you because you're my mentor, and he was technically the LPO, the Navy side LPO of the entire division we were in. It's like, well, I figured I would ask you. He's like, well, don't you think you should come to me with an answer and know how to do that and be asking for like how to do specific things or like what works better? It's like, I don't know where to start. It's like, well, how about you go figure that out? It's like, okay. Yeah. And I wanted to be like, I don't know because it's your fucking job to teach me. I don't know how to write an eval because no one taught me how to write an eval, but you're my mentor. That is your job. What the fuck? That was the same one that tried to tell me that I was a shitbag because I told him I was depressed.
I had a similar situation when I joined the Marine Corps.
Yeah?
My first crew chief was Corporal Grimmer.
Cool name,
No.
cool name.
Beer in my slippers after
No.
I mean, it's a cool name. You can give that's a cool name. Whether
Yes,
you
it's
like
a
him
cool
or
name.
not doesn't matter. It's a cool name.
It's a cool name, and what's weird is it's also spelt like my dwarf that I had playing D&D before I even joined the Marine Corps was.
Like Grimir.
No, Grimmur.
Oh. Go
But-
on.
What about him made him a shitbag was, for one, he was 260 pounds, all fat.
Far too busy to
Mm.
talk right now. I'm the mayor.
There are
Two.
fat Marines. Fat Marines do exist. You don't think you're going to see it, but they do exist.
we offer a
Well, mind you,
wide
this is when I'm
variety
first
of
joining my unit, so I had never seen a fat Marine before.
It was a myth. It was like a unicorn.
What can you tell
No,
me?
the unicorn is the warrant officer.
Mm.
You're strung out all right.
But no, so
I got
first of all, he was out of shape, but he would get on me because he's like, "Oh yeah, you're fat and everything." Mind you, I'm getting first class PFTs and CFTs,
Now,
and he's literally, "Oh yeah, I medically can't do it." Second, as the crew chief, he's supposed to verify, like when I actually go around do the pre-ops and everything on the vehicle, that I did it and everything's good and everything. His job would be, "Did you do it?" "Yes." "Okay, good enough." He
Not
was quite
actually
literally-
checking. Not actually confirming.
No, and most of the time, because as a reservist, if we were there for the one weekend, he'd literally the whole time just be all the way in the back corner of the vehicle where you can't really see him outside
Yeah.
on his phone all day.
And there is a level to, I will say there is a level to when you trust your guys and you know that they're experienced enough that you could, if you're in a rush, you can be like, hey, Corporal Stack, did you do this? And like,
Well,
I'm in a rush. Did you do
no.
this? And you're like, yeah, I did it. And like, okay, cool. I'm going to go. I trust you. One, you guys were reservists, so it's not like you guys were able to really spend the time building that level of relationship. And two, part of what you're doing on those weekends is ensuring training. That's the purpose of those fucking weekends, is ensuring you maintain those skills. So he should be checking all the fucking time.
Oh no, and mind you, this isn't even just like a, okay, yeah, he trusts me. No, this is from day one, how the fuck he is.
Yeah, no. Like
And
I had
so-
some people that like that were subordinate to me that would be like, okay, you got this. I'll do a quick cursory look, but I'm not gonna I'm gonna trust what you said. I'm gonna trust you. Not, and even then, not a lot. I did not. That was rare. That was when it wasn't priority. That was when it was something that if there is a fuck up, it's not gonna be that big a deal.
Oh no, with him, the thing about him was, I got good at doing like the pre-ops and everything like that, where usually they'd be like, it's a 30-minute all. I could get it done 10 minutes, actual, all the way down to individual deck plate bolt level details in that time, because he would not do anything and he'd just have me do everything. So I was like, cool. I'm just learning how to do this. And it was just stupid. Like, all the time. And then if something did get screwed up, it'd turn around and be my fault. And it's like, you never trained me on this.
Oh, 100%. I hate that.
Whoa, Stack, you're saying that he never trained you? Corporal Grimmer, you never trained him? I'm pretty sure that I did train him. He just might not have understood it. It's like, no, I learned because I had to ask other crew chiefs and everything.
Yeah. No, I love that because like going back to like my worst boss that I've talked about, there was so much of that. One, I had more experience in the job field that we were doing than she did because she cross trained. So by the time we were her first command at that job, whereas so I'd been doing that job for like a year when she had just started. So I had more experience with that job, but she would insist on me having to listen to everything she said. Because again, she learned how to do it the Army way. I learned how to do it the Navy way. We were at a joint command where we were technically subservient to a civilian agency, which is why we had a civilian chain of command, and we had to do it the civilian way. So she would all the time tell me to do it the Army, I'd do the work, I'd write the report, I'd do everything I needed to do, and she'd see like the report, she'd see the product and be like, oh no, you need to do this the Army, we need to change this around. I'm like, Sergeant Shrek, I get that that's the Army way to do it, but like at this command we have to follow this SOP. Like no, we're doing it the Army way, blah, 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 blah. And then when I was like, fine, fuck it, like I can't, like she's the next person, she's the next quality control person above me, so I can't submit it past her. So I'd submit it to her, I'd change it, submit it to her. It would then go up to the fucking the civilian who was the next quality control person, and the civilian would like come to me and yell at me because, hey Johnston, why are you doing this wrong? Why are you making, this isn't how we make it, why aren't you doing this? And then fucking Sergeant Shrek would be there like, yeah, why are you doing that wrong? You should know better than to do that. You should know better than do it that way. Blah blah blah. It's like, you told me to do this way. And then she would do the fucking Army sergeant thing. I was like, are you telling me I'm wrong? Yes, I told you were wrong. You told me to do it this way. Also fucking wrong because you didn't QC it. You still wasting time. But then like I'd get all the people come and talk to me like, oh well, you know,
really throw him under the bus like that.
Yeah,
we're
like, well,
to be a team.
Sergeant Shrek is new to the command, so you need to teach her how to do it the way that she's going to be trying to do it the Army way. You need to teach her how to do it the proper way. It's like, she doesn't fucking listen to me. I'm telling her how to do it the right way. I am telling her how to do it the right way. She is refusing to accept that. And then, like, conversely, the stuff that I was supposed to be doing, because also at that command I had the Marine staff sergeant that I served under. When I switched to combat support, when I started doing combat support stuff, I had a Marine staff sergeant that I was working under, and I was so happy to be away from the team that I was on, because we switched our teams occasionally. I was so happy to be away from the team that I was on, because I was like, I don't have to deal with that bitch anymore. And she was already removed from that team, but like I had such a sour taste in my mouth about that team in general because of that. I was like, I'm switching to combat support, which is what I wanted to do in the first place. It's going to be great. This team made products in a way that I had never experienced before. This team did an entirely different way of writing reports and doing products and using different tools and software that I had never experienced before. It's a completely new thing. So the first day on there, I'm working on something. I'm working on a report, and I'm like, hey, and no one else is around because everyone went down to the smoke deck except for the staff sergeant, because technically the staff sergeant was the NCOI of the team. So there's people in between me and him. I was an E4 at the time, so we had like 2 other E5s on the team, and then we had the staff sergeant, and then we also had a first class, but he wasn't the NCOIC. Everyone but me and the staff sergeant went down to the smoke deck and was smoking. So the only person I can ask to help me with this time-sensitive product, this time-sensitive report, was the staff sergeant. So after I get everything like kind of done, ready to go, I was like, "Hey, staff sergeant, here's where I'm at. Like, I don't know where to proceed from here. I don't know what the next step is. No one's taught me how to use this thing, how to do this." And he just starts fucking yelling at me because, well, somebody should have trained you to do that. Why are you asking me? Why are you going to me? It's like, well, you're the only person here. Well, you should get someone else to do it for you. It's like, you're the only person here, and this has to be done like by EOD. So the longer I wait, it's like, well, you shouldn't be coming to me. You shouldn't be having to me. It's like, so you want me to not be trained? But then when I finally, it's like, okay, I went back and I did it. Everyone was still like gone. I don't know if like I went back and finished the way I did, and then submitted it up to him. He's like, "Well, why didn't? Well, this isn't how it's done." Blah blah blah. What the fuck is this? I'm like, you didn't teach me. You refused to tell me how to do it. You refused to tell me how to write this report. It's completely different. This team does things different than every other team at this command. What the fuck? It's that lack of accountability, man. It's that they want, and they like so many people in like leadership positions in general, but like in the military, I think it's even worse, at least in the effect that it can have. So many people in leadership positions don't want to tell you how to do things. They don't want to take ownership for how things get done because it's their fault. If it goes wrong, then you're the one that taught them how to do it wrong. But so they could just say, "Oh, I didn't tell them how to do it this way." But you're in a leadership position. If your subordinate fucks up, it doesn't matter if that's how you told them to do it or not. It's still on you. So when like someone comes, when like, "Oh yeah, I submitted for it. I didn't tell them how to do it. Got blah 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 blah," and then say staff sergeant does that. Sergeant first class comes like, "How is it? Why is this fucked up?" It's like, "Well, Johnston did that." It's like, yeah. But you're my staff sergeant. You should have checked my work product. You should have made sure it was done right. So you can't just say, "Well, Johnston did it," and it doesn't make you look. It makes you look worse than I do. When you try to pass the blame off to your subordinates without saying, "Roger, Sergeant, don't worry, I'll make sure it never happens again. I apologize. I should have QC'd that better. I should have checked that. I should have made sure my team knew how to do this." Blah blah blah. That's what you say. You take ownership. When you just pass it off like, "Oh, well, Johnston did that. It's not my fault." Not only do you look like an incompetent leader, but you just look like a bitch. You just look like a fucking bitch. And that's not a good look. I look like I don't know how to do my job in that situation. I look like that I can use some extra instruction and extra training. You look like you failed to give me the extra instruction and training, that you're a poor leader, and that you don't take ownership for your mistakes. You look worse than I do. And they don't get that.
It's also another thing of, it's like, hey, I'm now in this position in rank and everything. This is beneath me. That's what at least from my observation being in the Marine Corps, it was a lot of times for a lot of people. It's like, okay.
If you are an E6 or below in a leadership position, your job is to manage and train your troops. Your job is to manage and train your subordinates. If you're an E7, yeah, then that kind of goes higher administratively. You stop doing your job as much, and now you're more administratively. That's where your work lends to. You should still, if one of your guys doesn't know what they're doing, you should still get them that instruction. Maybe you're not the one giving them instruction because you don't have the time, but you get that fucking staff sergeant, or you get that first class, or you get that tech sergeant, or whoever is in charge of that troop to teach that troop.
You get them the instructions so they know how to do the job.
Yes,
they don't go and screw up, and then you have to do the job.
Or someone just gets killed, or something horrible happens, or 1,000 other things that can go wrong because people are too busy passing the buck than taking ownership and doing the damn job. I remember, I was going to save this for a completely different story. I was going to prepare out this rant the same way I did my worst boss, but you know what? I'm just going to go on it right now because it's fitting. At my second command, when I was getting out of the military, my last few months, they put me into the supply shop. I was not a supply person. I was not trained to use the supply systems. I'm not certified to use the supply systems. I'm not allowed to sign off on stuff. But they put me in the supply shop because they're like, "Hey, we're going to keep you at this command while you're doing all your out processing stuff, while you're going to your medical appointments, while you're doing this, while you're doing that. But it's not like you're not going to be doing work because we're not going to have you on a team that you're not going to be at for that much longer." So they put me in the supply shop. At some points, like shortly before I got out, a higher echelon command was doing a review and doing investigation on a bunch of shit because they didn't know they knew something bad happened. They didn't know which command was responsible, so they were going through all the paperwork. They were going through all of everything and trying to figure out, hey, where's stuff going wrong? Why is there this discrepancy in numbers and blah blah blah? They're doing an investigation into all the commands, or like a review, or whatever they called it as a audit. Yeah, there you go. Probably it was probably that. I don't remember how they worded it. And up until this point, I had occasionally won something that really she should not have done legally. Is the LS1 that was in charge of the supply shop had a stamp that was her signature, and would just like use that, and you're not really supposed to do that, but it was quicker than writing the signature. But then several times she'd be like, hey, I need you, Johnston, I need you to do this work for me, and I did not really know at the time that I did not realize quite how bad it was, but she would hand me her stamps, like, just fill these out and stamp off on this. Like, okay. At first, when I first got there, I was like, okay, I'll do that. But like there were times when I was like, I know that was when it was like data entry stuff, when it was just like, fill out the stuff that's on this spreadsheet. We need to put it in paper form and then stamp off on it. Cool. That's just me transferring data. I'm like, okay, I can do that. I can read and translate it into the written form. I know how to do that. There was other stuff that she was like, hey, Johnston, I need you to do all the stuff. It's like, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to do that stuff. I don't feel comfortable signing off on this. I do not feel comfortable signing off on this document because I don't know what it says. I have no idea what's. I'm not. I know I'm not allowed to do that. And she'd get mad at me. Well, just fucking do it. It's like, no, I'm not going to do that. And nothing she could really do with it because she can't like write me up for not committing a crime. But there's a lot of stuff that I didn't do. We got this audit coming around. The higher echelon command's going through all the paperwork and stuff. We have all the boxes of the last several years of paperwork. And mind you, I've only been on the team for a few months, but last several years, like going from before I was at that command of paperwork, and they're like going through all this different stuff. And at one point, they were in the office, and the higher echelon people, the civilian, and then I can't remember. I think it might have been a senior chief or someone, and an officer were like the three people that were like there. Come in, and they start drilling her like, LS1, why is this wrong? What's going on with it? Blah blah blah. All this, your shit's really fucked up. Your shit is really fucked up. Why is your shit so fucked up? And she keeps like passing it off, like, oh well, this was before I got to the command. They're like, okay, this got you should have checked, you should have made sure, but I can get that. This is before I got to. But this stuff, this is all during your tenure here at this command. What's wrong with that? And would pass it off to the previous LS2 that ended up going to the 5th floor at Portsmouth. Ended up passing off, like, blaming them. And if you ask that LS2 why they went to the 5th floor, it was largely their work conditions, and particularly the way their leadership was treating them. So this person tried to pass it off on them. What?
Sorry to interrupt you. I'm Marine Corps side, so I don't understand what going to the 5th floor is, and I'm pretty sure someone listening doesn't understand what it means either.
The unalive ward, the mental health ward. It's where they voluntarily or involuntarily commit you so that you don't do things that you'll never be able to regret. Yeah.
See, I've never known that.
Yeah, so. It's the 5th floor. Yeah, this person ended up submitting themselves to the 5th floor because of the working conditions and the treatment they were getting. And at first, I was like, when I first heard that, because when I first got to onto that team, when I first got put in the supply shop, I didn't know about that part, and I didn't have any reason to really dislike my LS1. She actually treated me fairly okay, because at the time there was nothing going on. So like, I'd get sent home early sometimes when there's nothing to do. She was pretty cool. The work environment was laid back. The moment shit started getting a little bit hard, when the moment we actually had things to do, she just passed the buck off to everyone, was constantly blaming everything on everyone else. And I should have picked up on it, because when we were finally getting a new LS2, the moment we figured out who the new LS2 was, she starts being like, yeah, I reached out to some people on his ship, and you know, I heard that he's really a dirtbag. I'm really disappointed that we're getting him, and blah blah blah. And in my mind, that's just like, oh shit, we're getting this dirtbag dude. So when stuff started getting passed off on him, like stuff got fucked up, and I would hear her yelling at him, which she would tell him off in front of me. She actually asked me to make sure I was at a meeting she had telling him off, which is inappropriate as shit. We were both E5s. You don't do that. You punish in private, praise in public. You do not do that. Inappropriate as shit. But asked me to be there. So she was doing all that, and I didn't quite pick up on it yet because so far, like, I hadn't personally actually seen the impact. Once I actually got talking to this LS2 and me and him became friends, and I started and I didn't know the job well enough because it wasn't my job to know whose fault certain things were. But that's just a side tangent. That's a little whatever. We have this audit going on, and they're yelling, "Why is this fucked up? Why is all this fucked up? Blah 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 blah." And at one point she says, "Oh, well, I think Johnston did that. I think Johnston did that paperwork," which, like we said, not a good work because you're still the first class. You should still be QCing my work product. You should still be QCing my work product. That should not be a mistake. Then they turn to me and they're like, "Okay, LS2 Johnston, what happened here?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm not an LS2." They're like, "You're not an LS2?" It was like, No. I'm getting out, so they put me in the shop to be a gopher." And they're like, "Please leave." And I walk out of the office and I stand outside the office. And at this point, I've learned what that means. I've learned what it means when I'm asked to leave a room that my leadership is in when someone fucked up. I'm standing outside the office. These offices aren't soundproof. And I just start hearing, "You had someone who was not qualified, not certified, not legally authorized to, working on these products, signing off on this shit. What the fuck?" And she, "Oh, well, maybe it wasn't him. Maybe it wasn't him." But I'm like, "Well, still, you're lying to me. You're lying. Who did this? Who did this?" And just like going off on her. After that was when she started becoming... Because up to that point, things had started getting a little bit tense, but she had this like lackadaisical approach about it, where she was passing everything off to the LS2 that we were with. She was passing everything off to the LS2, who was like at that point kind of brand new to the command. So everything that went wrong in terms of doing the job of an LS, it was LS2's fault. But he wasn't really included in this audit because he was brand new to the command. So I think that's why she tried to pass it off on me, because she couldn't say, "Oh, this thing that happened between like fucking March and July is Johnston's fault, or is Guzman's fault, or is LS2's fault, because LS2 wasn't there." So I'd only seen her be harsh on LS2, and at that point, I didn't know the job well enough to realize that it wasn't LS2's fault. After that, she started becoming this massive bitch to just me and LS2 were the only ones that were under her care, but to me and LS2 collectively, to the point where she was blaming us for shit that wasn't our fault. She was trying to do a bunch of stuff that she really couldn't do. I got medically discharged. I did not want to get medically discharged. I made the mistake of trusting medical and trusting my chiefs when they said, "Yeah, you can go to medical and for your sleep apnea and it's not going to cause a problem." And lo and behold, it caused problems. I got forced out of the military. Because they said, "You don't have sleep apnea, you have narcolepsy." No, the fuck I don't. I'm just tired because I'm not sleeping well because of the sleep apnea. Whatever. And then there's other, I ended up getting like 26, 27 conditions on my list of shit that I get rated for. A lot of it's like 0 and 10%, but still. I had to, technically, I was limb-due. With my orders basically saying, "You can't work more than 8 hours a day, you can't do this, you can't do that." My back was thrown in, was part of like the thing that was on my stuff, because when they wrote my limb-due stuff, they wrote it for about the stuff that was getting me kicked out of the military and just other medical conditions I had. And my back was found to be fucked up, or was at least a little bit fucked up. So it was like, "Oh, you can't," and it was like, "Oh, you can't work for more than 8 hours a day, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't be standing for too long, you can't be lifting things that are too heavy, whatever. Or you can't be lifting," I don't remember what it was, but like, I know one of them was like, "You can't be standing for too long, you can't be working for more than 8 hours a day," and blah, blah, blah. And for the most part, I completely ignored all of that. I was like, "I'm going to do my fucking job. because I'm in the military. I'm going to do my job regardless of whether or not it doesn't fit these limb-due conditions, which for the most part never happened, aside from the fact that there were a few days that I had to work longer than 8 hours a day because there was an exercise going on that I was supporting. But when you're limb-due like that, and when you're getting medically discharged from the military, your technical job, your primary place of duty, is going to your medical appointments. You cannot be ordered to do something if you have a medical appointment, because that piece of paper, your primary job is to go to those medical appointments. I had like a week where I had a medical appointment every day because it's just how things got scheduled out. And she starts demanding that I don't go to these medical appointments. Don't go to these medical. And mind you, I'm an extra body in the supply shop. They were only supposed to have the OIC, the LCPO, the LPO, and one LS2. That's all they're supposed to have. And then like the civilians, but they don't count. I'm an extra body. They have an extra whole person that they normally shouldn't be able to plan around. And she's like, you can't go to this medical appointment. You can't go to that medical appointment. I was like, why not? It's like, well, because I'm going to need you to run to Dermo that day. I'm going to need you to run to SIF that day. I'm going to need you to do this that day. I'm going to need you to clean out the supply closet that day. I was like, I have to go to this medical appointment. I cannot cancel this medical appointment. So, blah, 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 blah. You can't do that. I was like, well, then what is the medical appointment for? What are you going to the medical appointment for? You can't ask that. You can't tell me. And at first, the first few times this happened, I was like, because it would be right before I was about to head out for a medical appointment. I'd show up to work, and my medical appointment would be like, I don't know, 1100, and I'd show up to work, and I'd have to drive an hour, so around like, 9:30, 9:45, I'd start getting ready to go to make sure I was there a little bit early, just in case there's traffic, blah, 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 all that. Well, what's this medical appointment for? We need you to stay. We need you to stay. It's like, I got to go to a medical appointment. Well, what's this medical appointment for? And at first I was like, well, this is the one that's going over my shoulder. This is the one that's going over my back, blah, 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 blah. Like, oh, well, that's not important. You can reschedule that. I was like, I'm not going to. I'm not going to reschedule that because you want me to go to the SIF when we have someone else here that can run to the SIF. Like, I was like, and what I said was like, well, can't LS2 run to the SIF, or can't LS2 run to Dermo, or can't LS2 do this? Like, well, I need them to do all this paperwork. I need them to do all this different stuff. It's like, I'm going to the medical appointment, and that came down to them trying to like get me in trouble and accuse me of malingering because I was going to medical appointments. And why was I scheduling so many medical appointments? Because I have to. Because every single one of these different things has to have a medical appointment attached to it, and they don't do big medical appointment. You don't get an appointment, I think, with doctors in general, but definitely in the military, you don't get an appointment that's like, hey, I have this issue, this issue, this issue, this issue, we're going to solve all of them. It's like, we're going to give you 15 minutes, we're going to talk about one issue, schedule another appointment. That's legitimately what the doctors say. We're going to pick this issue, pick which issue is the most important, and then we'll schedule other appointments. And that appointment might be whatever, however far away. And some of them were, I had to go see my sleep specialist. Some of them were, I had to go see my general practitioner. Some of them were, I had to go see mental health. Some of them were, I had to go, one of them wasn't a mental health appointment. It was because I was getting out medically. They assigned me a lawyer. So I had to go meet with that lawyer. And just harass me, trying to force me to do that. And at one point, she started demanding that I tell her what my appointments were because she thought I was just making up appointments to get out of work. I was like, you can't do that. I don't have to tell you what my appointments were. That's protected information. Legally, if you try to force me to tell that information, you can be charged $10,000 and dishonorably discharged from the military. Do we want to go this route? And she would always do that. I eventually go to our OIC and like say, listen, LS1's doing this shit. LS1's not allowed to do this shit. You handle this, or I will take this higher and someone else will handle this. But I don't even know what started that fucking rant, man. I don't even know how that one started. That was just that boss. She was a different type of nightmare. My first boss was very much the nightmare, the worst boss. The first worst boss I had. My first LPO in the military was actually really good in terms of like morale, but not necessarily a great leader. Great supervisor, not a great leader. The second boss, the staff sergeant, was the one that was really bad. This boss was like definitely my second worst one. This boss was definitely the second worst one. She didn't go out of her way to degrade me or insult me, but she was really fucking petty and would always be trying to pass the buck and get everyone else in trouble for stuff that she did. Oh, Oh, you want to hear my favorite thing that she did? You want to hear my favorite thing that she did that really just fucked her over? Especially because this happened very shortly after she got approval to go to OCS. She had a billet to go to OCS, and she kind of fucked herself. You want to know what she did? Stack, you want to hear this? You want to hear the Stack? You want to?
What's she do?
They were having a pre-deployment meeting. They're preparing for a deployment, so they're getting all the N codes, N1 through N7 or whatever the fuck it was, to have a meeting to help prepare and make sure everything was ready for the deployment the teams were going on. Our OIC, Suppo, had a medical appointment. He had he had to get a surgery medical appointment, so he was gonna be gone. Chain of command already knew that. So LS1 was supposed to go to this meeting because normally it would be Suppo would be at the meeting representing N4. He couldn't be there, so LS1 was supposed to go to this meeting to represent N4 for pre-deployment. LS1 decides she doesn't want to go to this meeting. She doesn't want to get it done. She has other work she wants to do, probably sit around and talk to her new boyfriend on her phone because she spent a lot of time texting and doing everything else. And she was also working on part of like her college degree because she was like working on a doctorate or something or a master's degree. I can't remember. She's working on a postgraduate degree or she's working on a graduate degree during work hours. She decides she doesn't want to go to this meeting. She also doesn't want to send LS2 to this meeting because LS2's got work he's got to get done. But Johnston can't do the work. She's already been chewed out about trying to have Johnston do the paperwork that she's not supposed to not have me doing. So, Johnston, go to this meeting. I was like, LS1, I don't know any of the information they're going to be asking me. What are they going to be asking me? It's like, we're going to be asking about this and stuff. It's like, I don't know any of that. It's like, why don't you know that? It's like, because it's not in my purview. It's not something I'm supposed to know. It's like, oh, well, just go to the meeting and if they ask any questions, just give them the answer you do know. If you don't know, just say you'll get back to them. It's like, this is going to be with the commander of the command. That's such a weird way to say it. This is going to be with the commander. This is going to be with the master chief of the command. This is going to be with the XO of the command. So the CO, XO, master chief are going to be there. The entire triad's going to be there. And then the heads of all the different like departments, all the different encodes, N1 through N7 or whatever the fuck it was, were going to be there. I'm pretty sure they don't want to hear, I'll get back to you. And they definitely don't want to hear, I'll get back to you from a second class that is not trained to do that job. And they're going to wonder why you're not there. But at this point, I don't care. I'm getting out so soon. I don't give a fuck. And I know they're not going to be mad at me. So I'm like, okay, LS1, if you want me there, I'll go to the meeting. I go to the meeting. As I walk in, they told me last minute to go to that meeting. So I show up to that meeting 5 or 10 minutes late, or not really. They told me last minute to go to that meeting. So I show up to that meeting late by military standards. I'm not 15 minutes early to that meeting. And as I walk in, the commander, who at this point, because it's a small command, and I'm the getting out medically, so I'd had to talk to her and stuff like that. It's like, Johnston, what are you doing here? I was like, and I as I'm going to sit down in the conference room, it's like, Johnston, what are you doing here? I was like, ma'am, I'm here to represent N4 at this meeting. And she's like, no, you're not. I was like, I was told to come here and represent N4 at this meeting. She's like, who told you that? I was like, LS1 told me that. It's like, why isn't Suppo here? I was like, well, Suppo has a medical appointment that's been scheduled for a while that he has to go to. It's like, and why isn't LS1 here? I was like, she said she didn't want to go. She's like, excuse me? I was like, yeah, she said that she didn't want to go and that I'll just collect questions and she'll get back to you on the answers. And she's like, go get LS1. And she's like, you're not in trouble. Go get LS1. I was like, yes, ma'am. And I just walk my happy ass out of there. And like, I get back to the thing. And by this point, LS1's gone. I don't know where the fuck she went. I think she went to lunch. And I'm like, LS2, where's LS1? She's like, oh, she left. I was like, okay, I'm going to need you to come back with me and explain that. So I walk back there with LS2. I walk back to the office, to the conference room with LS2. I'm like, I knock, I enter, I open the door. I was like, ma'am, LS1 left. We're not sure where she went, but LS2 here should be able to answer a lot of the questions. And she's like, just like rage in her face, you can tell. It's like
It's that kind smile that's like, I'm going to murder someone.
it's that it's that I'm trying
I'm
not
being
to fucking. It's like it's no one here did anything wrong, but I am fucking furious. Look, it's that like I preparing mentally to destroy LS1, basically preparing mentally to fucking wreck LS1. And she's like, okay, LS2, please come in, and Johnston, you're free to go. And actually, just straight up tells me to go home. Like she's just like, you're free to go. Just go home, take a day. You're fine. It's like, okay. Which I love when that happens. I love when it's happened 2 or 3 times at that command specifically, where the triad or someone higher up was so mad at my leadership that they told me to go home.
Well, it's a shit fuck situation when they say go home.
Yeah.
Because at that point, it's like, yes, there's going to be so much blowback and collateral damage
that they don't want you to catch any flack. They don't want you. That's what it is. That they don't want you to catch any flack.
We are about to skull fuck some souls, and yours is not on the list.
Yeah, and a little bit probably of we don't want you to be there when we do this. And it's very specifically happened to me like 3 times at that command while I was not working, while I was in the process of getting out, so I wasn't working on my actual team. So there's no work for me to do. It was just very much just go home. This woman, this LS1 had gotten her billet, her little seat to go to OCS. At this point, they had a whole ceremony congratulating her and blah blah blah, and going to OCS, and she's going to be leaving in X number of months and whatever. Her next whatever, yeah. She didn't go to OCS. She did not go to OCS. She, the last I heard, she ended up losing that OCS billet, and then when she left that command, there was no going away ceremony. There was no end of tour reward. There was nothing, because normally a lot of times at these commands, when someone's leaving, at the very least, at some level, like the smaller the command, it tends to be more command-wide. The larger the command, it might be division-wide, it might be whatever. There's a ceremony where you get presented with your end of tour award, and whoever like.
Hey, dude, I gotta go hop off real quick and everything.
You gonna be back?
I'll be back like 45 minutes. Gotta pick my brother up from work.
Okay, but yeah, no, there's an end of tour award, and there's like a little ceremony where like the person presenting the award, it could be the LCPO, or it could be whoever like the senior person is or whatever. And sometimes it's a little bit junior because they're trying to. It's someone that's more close to that person, is bragging about this person and talking like, I did all this stuff at the command. They did so great. They were amazing. They were shit hot. They earned this reward, and we are gonna miss them. LS1 did not get that. Last I heard, LS1, because I was gone about a month or maybe 2 after this happened. I was out of the military. LS2 did not get that. LS2 did not get an Inditour award. LS2, there was no ceremony with her release. A lot of people were not really know that she's going to be released. It's just one day she was replaced. That's the last I heard. One day she was gone, and it was done. That was the last I heard. I still keep in contact with LS2 sometimes. Just it's more so when I run into him because we still live in the same area. That was the story I was not expecting to tell today, but that is one of my worst bosses. And to be clear too, like I know like the 2 worst bosses I've had have been women. It is not because they are women. It is not because they are women that they were bad bosses, because my first boss was a woman, and she was great. She was really good. She was a great supervisor, and the reason she lacked capability as a leader has nothing to do with the fact that she was a woman. It had to do with the fact that she was like 22. She was 22. She was, as far as I believe, hearing that she was freshly a first class, so it was a completely new situation to her. So it's not her fault that she didn't know how you grow into leadership, and putting it in the situation that she was in, because really the only places that she lacked as a leader is she was a bit of a pushover sometimes, where she would just kind of someone would start trying to task us, or someone would start trying putting extra work on us that really maybe wasn't really our job, our purview to do, and or that she should have been like, oh no, and protect us, and say no, pass it off to this team, pass it off to someone else. We got enough on our plate, and she kind of like let stuff like that happen a little bit. And I kind of talk about it where she would try to be too much of a compromiser sometimes when there were situations where she shouldn't compromise, but that just comes when you're freshly in a leadership position. You've been used to getting bowled over a lot. You've been used to just doing what you're told. So when someone comes and that's a little bit higher ranking and says, hey, do this, you don't fight back. That's not her fault at all. I've also had plenty of shitty male bosses, but two of the bosses that I served under for some of the longest period of time just happen to be women, and they happen to be shitty. The shitty male boss when I was doing combat support, I didn't serve under him for as long, and for the most part, I had a mediator because that team was larger. So when I was in the supply shop, the team it started with like there was no mediator between me and LS1. It was LS1 and then me, and then it was LS1, me, and LS2. But me and LS2 were the same rank. There was no block between them. There's no one else doing that. When I was at my first command, it was the same thing. It was me, the third class, and who wasn't third class in this position. It's not really a leadership position. It's an E4, but it's not really a leadership position, especially at that command, in that job field. And the staff sergeant. So me, third class, staff sergeant. There was no media. There was no shield between that. When I had that shitty staff sergeant, the shitty Marine staff sergeant, there was a buffer. There was a large number of people between me and them. So unless I fucked up enough that it merited him yelling at me, wasn't there. And then I had a bunch of people that were like able to guide me and help me. So he was a piece of shit, and he was a bit of an asshole. He was, in a lot of ways, he was a good guy. It was just him as a leader wasn't great. Him as a leader was really bad. Outside of that, he was actually pretty cool. But like, I didn't have to interact with him as much. I'm sure that if I was put in that same situation where like I was brand new to the job and I didn't know what I was doing and blah blah blah, and it was just me and him on that team together for months, then it would have been a really bad situation. It would have been a really, really shitty situation for me, and I would have had more to complain about him. That's just not how it worked out. And then the same thing, I had an Air Force staff sergeant. I think, did he make tech sergeant while I was there? I had an Air Force staff sergeant who was an E5. Air Force staff sergeants are E5s. Marine and Army are E6s. Who was also a shitty boss. But by the time I had gotten to him as my boss, I had learned enough how to deal with it. So the crap that he tried to pull stopped pretty quickly because I knew how to handle it. I knew when to go get higher ups. I knew how to play that political game a little bit more. And I wasn't in a position where like really a lot could like be complained about me. It was all minor stuff, and when it happened, I was like, okay, this is something where I'm going to explain it this way. If it's getting to this bad where I don't think it's not, I'm going to go to our master sergeant, because we had an Air Force master sergeant. I'm gonna like, I knew how to handle it, so the effect he could have on me wasn't as bad. At one point, dude broke down crying in a meeting with me, him, and well, it was right after I got asked to leave the room with me, him, and the master sergeant, because like there's some stuff that he did. I did not like it. It was very petty and vindictive. And I went to Master Sergeant and said, hey, tomorrow morning, can we talk about this? Because I don't like the way that this happened. He said, yeah, sure. And the conversation went around, and I was asked to leave the room. And all of a sudden, Staff Sergeant is apologizing to me and crying a little bit and saying he's sorry that he's being a bad leader and he's just really learning how to do it and blah blah blah. And yeah, so the people that I say all this to say that the people that comment on my posts or comment on my comment on my I'm losing a lot of frames. So I think that's an internet thing right now. It is storming really bad. The people who comment on my videos, comment on my shorts and stuff like that when I'm talking about the leadership I've had that have been women's and have been shittier, like, oh, figures it's a woman, like, of course, blah blah blah. I'm glad I never had to deal with that woman. And one of them as fucking just, I don't even know how to call it. Be like, I'm glad figures it was a woman. I'm glad I never enlisted. Like, what? It has nothing to do with them being a woman. Because I've also had plenty of women that were great leaders. One of my master sergeants who was a woman, fantastic leader. I've had plenty of women I've served under that were phenomenal. Don't bring your misogyny into this. It has nothing to do with their gender. It has nothing to do with their gender. You can be a shitty leader regardless of your gender. And being male, female, whatever, has nothing to do with whether or not you are going to be a good leader. So that's why I say all that. I'm losing so many frames right now. I'm going to do something real quick. Yeah, my upload speed is fucking terrible. Let me figure out why this is happening. It's not using a lot of my CPU. Let's do this. It could just be the storm. It's saying my stream quality is good. How much lag are you guys getting? Let me go see how bad the storm is going right now. Jesus Christ. Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. It's because the storm's not that bad, but like it was a pretty bad storm earlier. See if it improves at all. Here's what I'm gonna do then. I'm gonna close this because it's not taking up a lot of the CPU. That's not what's happening right now. A lot of my memory is being taken up right now, but that's not an insane amount. I don't know what the fuck. Oh, I definitely have a memory leak somewhere. Normally, it does not take up this much memory. I'm going to close this real quick. That's wild. Hold on. What happens if I just I'm gonna stop the recording part of this. Because it's 100% right now. It is. I don't even know why I'm checking everything else. Because right now it is. I can kind of confirm that it is my upload speed that is strangled. So I don't know what I was really expecting to come from that. I'm just gonna change this. It's storming, so I'm stuttering. I have FiOS. I didn't think this. Yeah, I have FiOS. I don't know why. I don't know why. This is kind of wild. I don't know what's going on with this. Um, I also don't know how long I've been stuttering for. Hmm. Let me recheck. And the upload speed thing is going to be affected by the fact that I'm currently uploading, but it shouldn't be like I've done the test before because my download is fine. I've done the test before while streaming, and okay, my upload improved. Not as good as it normally is, but it's good enough. That's really weird. Right now, I'm just kind of troubleshooting. How's everyone doing? Well, I troubleshoot this to see if there's anything I can actively do right now to fix my upload speed problems. I know my VPN sort of strangles it a little bit, but not too much. That has not been a problem in the past. Like, I always have my VPN on. Okay, how's chat doing right now? I'm gonna do some stuff to hopefully improve the speeds a little bit. That's what I'm gonna be doing right now. And then once I got that done, I will continue with something for stream. Bam. Here's what I'll do. I'll end the YouTube side, so that'll free up on the Twitch side since there's nobody in the YouTube side.